today we're going to cover the trig functions, which you have learned before, but we're also going to add in 3 new trig functions that are related to sine, cosine, and tangent. So here's your title page. And at the top here we talk about how to label the sides, hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. And then down below, you definitely want to include all of this stuff into your notes. Now, the left side you're familiar with, sine, cosine, and tangent. But the right side is the reciprocal of those. And so when you write this down, make sure that sine is somehow related to cosecant, cosine is related to secant, and tangent is related to cotangent. And then there's an example that you can look at down below. And so we have the reciprocal functions written up above, how cosecant is related to sine, secant is related to cosine, cotangent is related to tangent. And then we have the special right trig functions, and these you're really going to get to know this chapter. And again, when we are finding the angle, then we need to use the inverse. So if we're looking for angle A, then you would set up sine inverse of x. And then a review of angle of elevation and depression. Depression is looking high, or you're high up and you're looking down. Elevation is you're down low and you're looking up. Okay, so let's start off with this one. So I changed that a little bit so we can see it. So copy down the triangle, and it says to find the value of the 6 trigonometric functions for angle G. We should mark angle G then. And then let's label the 3 sides. So our longest side is a hypotenuse. Across from the angle is our opposite side. And right next to the angle, the one that is not the hypotenuse, is the adjacent. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So that would be 24 over 40. But if we were to reduce that, divide both of them by 8, you're going to get 3/5. Cosecant then is the reciprocal of that. So that would be 5/3. Okay, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that's going to be 32 over 40. Divide each of those by 8. And you get 4 over 5. Secant is the reciprocal, so 5 over 4. Tangent is going to be opposite over adjacent. Again, you can divide both of those by 8. And you get 3/4. Cotangent, reciprocal, 4 over 3. Okay, how about this one? So you're going to be given a problem like this. Tangent of A equals 5/3. Find secant of A. I'm sorry, cosecant of A. So what you're going to have to do is draw a triangle like the one that's given here. And if we know tangent of A is 5/3, so we're using angle A. This is our opposite side, so that's why we put a 5 here. And then this is the adjacent, so that's why we put a 3 here, because this is opposite over adjacent. Okay, cosecant is related to sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite. So what is the hypotenuse? That would be C. We're going to have to use the Pythagorean theorem to find that. So that's 34. Square root of 34 is C. So that means it's the square root of 34 over our opposite is 5. Then we look to see if we can reduce it, and we can't, so we're done. All right, let's do a little bit of solving here then. Find x. First thing that you're going to do is label your sides. 12 is our longest side, so that becomes the hypotenuse. X is across, that's our opposite. And what uses opposite and hypotenuse? That would be sine. So sine of 60 is x over 12. So now you can multiply sine of 60 times 12. Now one thing I want you to check before you do anything is press your mode and make sure that degrees is highlighted like it is right here. So I have degrees highlighted, and so that's okay. If you didn't, here's what you do. You go down go over to degrees, and then you press enter. All right, to get out of there, we do second mode. And so again, our problem was sine of 60 equals x over 12, cross multiply. Sine of 60 times 12. Sine of 60, you must close the parentheses, times 12, and you get 10.939. Now, we could have used our special right triangle to do this as well. If we go back and look at the 60, 30, 60, 90 triangle, the side with 60 gets labeled x. Hypotenuse is 2x, and the other one is x squared of 3. So the side with 60 is x. Hypotenuse was 2x, and the other side is x squared of 3. So we look and see what is x. Well, if 12 is 2 times x, x must have been 6. So that 2 times 6 gives us 12. So that means that this side is 6 square root of 3. So 6 square root of 3, or you could get it as a decimal. All right, how about one that is not a special right triangle? So we have Joel looking at this building, and we want to find D. Well, let's start labeling the sides. D would be considered our hypotenuse. 200 is our adjacent. So what uses adjacent and hypotenuse? That would be cosine of 76 equals 200 over D. All right, how are we going to solve this? We're going to need to put this over 1 and cross multiply, so 1 times 200, then divide by the cosine of 76. So 1 times 200 is just 200, divided by cosine 76. And our answer is 826. Let's see, I better double check my rounding. So if we were rounding to the nearest tenth, does it say what to round to? No, let's go to the nearest whole foot. So then that would be 827. All right, now let's go and find an angle. We need to find angle A, so we're going to draw this triangle and mark this angle. And so because we have all three ratios, we could do sine, cosine, or tangent. So we could do sine inverse is opposite over hypotenuse. Well, opposite of the angle would be 9. Hypotenuse would be 17, and that side's the adjacent. So that would be 9 over 17. Cosine inverse would be 14.4 over 17. And tangent inverse is going to be 9 over 14.4. So you can pick any of those. I'm going to just type in sine inverse is 9 over 17. So you go second sine, figure this out. Second sine 9 over 17. And it is 32 degrees. Oh, it says to the nearest tenth. Better double check that. And that would round up also, so 32.0 degrees. So how would we find angle B? Well, if we know this one's already 90 and this one is 32, the quickest way probably would to realize that B and A have to total 90, because if C is already 90, A and B together have to make 90, so it's 180. So if we just take 90 minus 32, 58 degrees. Okay, let's just take a look at a couple of word problems. Take a second to read this one and then we'll go through it. So find the horizontal distance. That's going to be x down there. So what trig ratio are we going to use? tangent of 12 is opposite over adjacent. So do you multiply or divide? In this case, you're going to divide. So you type in 36 divided by the tangent of 12. Whoops. So 169.4. And then our last one for today. Take a second to read through this one. Okay, we're just finding x on this one, so this is another tangent problem. Tangent of 60 is 195 over x. Again, this is going to be a dividing problem. Or you could look at it, it's a special right triangle. If this is x, that one is, this is 2x right here, and this is x squared of 3. So you would have to divide it by square root of 3 to get the answer, or you can just type it into your calculator, 195 divided by tangent of 60, and you get 112.6. All right, that's the end of the lesson. You can write your questions and your summaries now.